Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Ryan with Propelio. Today's massive value, we've got Josh Culler on the air from Chicago, and we're going to be talking about content marketing as a real estate investor. So, we do a lot of content marketing here towards people like yourselves, but today we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of that and how it can be effectual. Is that a word? How it can be effective towards your sellers and your buyers and whatnot. So stick around. Drop a like, drop a heart, drop some kind of comment, and Casey and I and Josh will be right back.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Life in Air.
Hey, what's going on? Hi, Casey.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Josh. So glad you could join us finally. You're a very busy man.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yeah, we're really excited. Casey's been telling me a lot about yourself for the past several weeks now, and I know she's been really excited. And I'm always excited about talking about content marketing and whatnot, just because that's so relevant to what we do here at Propelio and
Whatnot. See, there we go.
There we go.
Maybe you should take over.
So, if you don't mind, give us a quick background about yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you're so passionate about content marketing.
Sure. So, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on the show, guys. Cassie, I very much admire your patience with me because we were supposed to do this last week, and I kind of had to bail out on her because I realized that my flight was going to be taken off an hour after we booked the show. So first of all, thank you for being patient. So yeah, just a quick snapshot of my background. I've been in the real estate investing industry for about 6 years now. And yes, I am 25 years old. So you do the math, since I was 19 years old. Just starting off doing bandit signs, pre-looks, marketing, sales, closings, almost anything that you could think of, acquisitions. For a local wholesaling company that was in the area. I'm in Northwest Indiana, right outside Chicago, about 20 minutes outside Chicago. So that's kind of where I got my start in the real estate investing industry. There's a whole big background story on how I got into that specific company that I was in. But I was with them for about 7 months, decided to leave them, and actually did 3 wholesale deals by myself in between that and then going to my next company. And then I managed 1 flip, and I realized I never want to do that again. So I
feel you on that.
Never done that again by myself. Just not something I'm passionate about doing and interested in doing. So then I came on board with, you guys know Gary Harper, and then he was partners with a guy named Tom Olson and then Wayne Schaefer. And so they were running a large wholesaling company in Northwest Indiana. I believe in 2017. The company bought and sold 300 wholesale deals in the Northwest Indiana area and actually most of Indiana as well. So it's a pretty large wholesaling company, just right in the heyday of when wholesaling was kind of becoming big, especially in this market, which if you guys don't know, Northwest Indiana is a very hot market in the Midwest right now.
I didn't know that, actually. So that's interesting.
It's a quiet area, but it is definitely one of the hottest turnkey markets in the Midwest right now. I mean, people hear about Memphis and Detroit and Kansas City, but Northwest Indiana is a big one just because we got Chicago right outside of us, but not very many people want to invest in Chicago right now, especially some things that are being changed.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding combative, hot market in Northwest Indiana
sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah, never really linked together in my brain. Like Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, Miami, Northwest Indiana.
But I like hearing about these pockets, though, just as a side note, because I think we get so engulfed in our own environment that we forget how good it can be. I always tell Jason, if we can make it in Dallas, we can make it anywhere because it's so competitive. But that's a lot of deals that you were working with. So you obviously have a good background in actual real estate as a whole and all the different kind of elements in it, is what it sounds like.
Right. And so because of that, I am very niched with my media business into the real estate investing community, primarily because, I mean, as you guys know, you guys hold meetup groups and whatnot, and you get to talk to a lot of real estate investors. I mean, I love the real estate investing community. I think there's some absolutely incredible people that are here. And then when I went full time into my media business this year, I kind of took the quote at heart, the riches are in the niches. And so I wanted to stay focused into the real estate investing industry because it's what I know. And so I've been involved with that, but my media business going back, I've been involved in media, graphic design, photography, videography since I was 14 years old. It's always been a side hustle, always been something I've been passionate about doing, and I have done for the companies I worked for. But then this year in March, I actually went full time into that, and it has exploded and completely taken off. And yeah, so that kind of brings us up to date.
Yeah, so let's get into that. So because the media is what you're passionate about, and because we've got so many shows on the real estate, wholesaling and flipping. Let's really focus in on the media side. So first of all, quick definition: what is content marketing? I know we all think we know, but what does it mean to you?
Well, yeah, content marketing definitely has its own shape. I actually pulled up the definition of content, and I actually lost it right now. But basically, when you look up the definition of content, it's basically what is involved in a specific kind of like a front-facing thing. So, for instance, the content that you guys are doing right now, so we're on YouTube right now, this is content, but it's content marketing, right? So whatever you are doing in sales and marketing is content. So even when you're taking a phone call from a seller, a potential seller, somebody that's wanting to sell their house, maybe they just went through a divorce or whatever, and they're telling you about the house, and then they want to know more about you and what you can do for them, whatever comes out of your mouth, that's content. So whatever is being portrayed to your target audience is content. So that includes social media postings, that includes the website, whatever content you have on the website. So whether it be testimonials or videos or whatever it is, almost anything in sales and marketing is content in some way, shape, or form. Now, not all of it is content marketing, which I don't know, Ryan, we could get into the full definition of content marketing as well, but that's just kind of a snapshot of what content really is in the grand scheme of just business in general.
So yeah, because I know there's a huge difference between content marketing and then actual advertising. Marketing.
He's not great with words. Yeah, so for me, when you said that, honestly, in my mind, I'm thinking, what is that? So you said it's very different. So content marketing versus like advertising a particular service. How would you distinguish between the two?
Yeah, so that there's a very big difference between just content marketing and then actual advertising. So when it comes down to it, I have this book, and hopefully, I mean, if you guys can see this. So this is a book called Content Chemistry. And in the first chapter of that book, and if you are interested in doing content at all, I highly recommend that book, Content Marketing by Andy Crestonia. But it gives you a really good picture, an in-depth picture of what the differences are. So I think it's the first chapter, it shows this graph of, it's got a circle. So the circle is website. So this is standing for traditional advertising. And then you have all these other components around the circle, which is your website, or you can also include that as your brand or your company or whatever it is. But then you got all these other circles. So you got like expos like display kits at expos. You got billboards, postcards, bandit signs, Craigslist postings, all kinds of stuff that would be technically considered advertising. Now what happens is when you take that, you draw another row of circles behind that, and that's your customers. So whoever your target audience is. And basically what's happening is if you look at the graph, the arrows are pointing to the post, like from the customer to the postcard or the billboard or whatever. Then that arrow is pointing to the brand. So basically your customers are like finding the stuff that's, out there, and then they're coming to you, right? Because you're going out there to them. That's the only reason. So you're going towards them, and then the arrows are coming back to you. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, the difference between that and content marketing is you are putting the content out there, and then the audience is finding it. So you're going specifically to your audience as opposed to the audience coming to you after you've gotten to them. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. It can be a little confusing. Looking at the graph makes a lot more sense when it comes down to it. But yeah, we'll have to show you at some point.
What are some examples?
That's the difference.
What are some examples because again, the only way this makes sense to me is by what we're doing right now to our audience of hopefully real estate investors / entrepreneurs / anyone that's trying to do content marketing. Now, for the real estate investing niche specifically, what are some examples of a way to do content marketing for, hey, I'm trying to find sellers, I'm trying to find buyers, I'm trying to find owner finance opportunities. Let's try to get super niche on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to like kind of my last little statement there, I realized how complicated it sounded after trying to, like, you try to explain something from a graph and it just kind of doesn't make sense after you said it. But hopefully that made sense to you guys. Basically, the synopsis is that, and Ryan, I'll go back to that real quick, but just want to give that quick synopsis of what I just explained is basically you are throwing dollars out there for your audience to find you, but then with the content, you're throwing out value out there for your audience to find you.
There it is.
That's really the difference there. So
that's a good distinction.
That gives you a better snapshot of it, right? So when it comes down to sellers specifically, I know that probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue in real estate investing right now is the lack of deals, especially, I mean, you guys are in Dallas. Like, I mean, we talk about hot markets. I mean, that's a crazy hot market. Mm-hmm. And so deals can be hard to come by. Now, when it comes to content for, getting content marketing out there for sellers, really it's all about awareness, like letting people know that, hey, I buy houses or I flip houses or I wholesale, whatever type of deals that you do, just getting out there as much as possible with value on how you can solve somebody's problem is the type of content you want to put out. So let me give you an example. For sellers, I mean, I have one guy, I'm not sure if you guys might know who he is. His name's Max Culler. He's a good buddy of mine in Dallas, and he is going after the older crowd, right? So the people that may have lost a spouse due to old age, and they're just living in a home, and they want to maybe take that next phase of life. So instead of him sending a postcard to them saying, "I'll buy your home," and that getting lost in the shuffle with all the other 100 yellow postcards, he decided to write a book on them taking their next steps into that. And so I believe the book's called Home to Home. Mm-hmm. And so he's franchising that out right now. But basically it's basically almost he has a workbook that goes along with it, giving value to these people that they wouldn't get anywhere else because they don't know the next step. I mean, they may not have that child that is going to take care of them and say, hey, you guys can, or mom and dad, you can go to this home for elderly people, and then I'll sell your home, or whatever it is. And so he has this book, and it gives it to them, and that's content for him. And so then they take that, it brings them value, and then in turn, it creates a lot more trust, a little bit more of a bond with Max, and they want to sell them the home, as opposed to Max handing him another postcard. He hands him a book, and everybody else has these, I'll buy your house, and he says, I just want to give you value. So
I was gonna say, what I like about that is that it's not just social media marketing. It can be actually in their hands. So it's not necessarily just taking away from the traditional mailers and advertising. You're just taking content and delivering it in a different way, right?
Yeah, because I've known several people have done that, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and it's just like you move on, because I think naturally we all just think that, oh, writing a book is, man, that's so but beyond what my capabilities. But the first person I saw do that was Doc Compton. He was in the studio 2 years ago, and he did credit repair. And I was like, and his thing was, this is my business card. I hand it out. Yeah. And then you've got Mike Hanna. He's done that locally. Andy Dan Carter, Tony Robinson. Like, all these guys are that's their business card, and it's like. Yeah. But again, even for, I don't want to say someone like me, but someone who does content marketing all the time, writing a book and being a published author seems so unattainable.
So what are some of the other kind of ideas that people have then? So maybe it's not writing a book. Like Tony Robbins, for example, right? He gives away free links for disc profiles with his name. Yeah. Like, his face is on every single report. How many of us use disc profiles? So that's an example I can think of as providing value kind of as a business card. So are there some other examples that maybe might seem like more creative or attainable for some people?
Yeah, absolutely. And doing the whole book thing is kind of more of an advanced technique if you want to go after it. I think that becoming a published author is actually extremely easy, and might be easier than most people think. And I can talk to you about it, Ryan. I'll make you a believer, man. But
after, never mind, I'm not gonna say that.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, seeing how many people are published authors, that I'm like, oh.
You feel it takes credibility away?
No, but that's what I'm saying is, like, I know, like, there's so many people out there that their niche is teaching people, like, hey, I'll write the book, just just I'll ghostwrite it, just I'll throw your name on it, boom, and we'll get it out there.
Yeah, it is true. But it's effective because a lot of your sellers, they just want the information. They don't think they really care. And if you're the one delivering it and you're the one giving it to them, that is still valuable. So that's just working smarter, not harder. But I'm curious about some other examples.
Yeah. So I kind of gave that a little bit more of an advanced technique. I mean, that definitely takes a lot more work than the next thing I'm going to suggest. But it, like Cassie made the point, it doesn't always have to be social media related items. Like content can be written form or anything else. So when it comes down to social media, let's say for instance, I like using like specific examples. So I got a friend of mine who's in Florida, Dewey Wynn, and he does videos. I don't think it's daily, but it's pretty often, like often enough for me to see it almost daily in my newsfeed on Facebook. And he doesn't do any kind of production. Like he doesn't have all kinds of lights and stuff like that. He uses his cell phone and goes Facebook Live talking about a deal that he just got. And sometimes I've even seen real estate investors that they just acquired a house and maybe there's something wrong with, the gutters or the foundation or something like that. So they'll go over there and with their knowledge, they're going to talk about what they're going to do to fix the foundation, what they're going to do to fix the gutters, what they're going to do to, the hardwood floors that are all messed up and have water damage, that kind of thing. And so they're really giving their area of expertise and their education to the audience. And I think we were talking about it earlier, but like it just kind of is arbitrage marketing because somebody that's listening might be a seller, or they dead sure know somebody that is going to be a seller or is a seller. So it's all about just the awareness of getting your name out there. And the more that you get content out there, even if it, start with your personal profile. I mean, you don't have to start like with all these lights and camera in the background that Propelio has here. Like start with your cell phone camera and do some Facebook Live videos and just like, you don't have to be a polished speaker or anything. And just get the word out there that, hey, I am so-and-so and I do this. I buy houses. And if you know somebody that does, hey, shameful plug, give me a call.
So on that, I'm glad we're getting into the how to get started because again, someone like me, like I'm not ashamed of doing a Facebook Live here and there, but take somebody like Cassie here, where maybe she's new to, maybe Cassie's new to like the social media stuff. Where does she start? Like, where can someone like her, like, or someone who's, this is all new, where do they start? Is it just getting on Facebook Live?
Well, first of all starts with self-awareness, like understanding what you are good at and what you're not good at. So if you,
I like that.
I don't know how many people I've fart.
Sorry,
Jeez.
I'm a child.
I'm tripping over my words watching you guys mess around. It's funny. I have dealt far more with people. That's what I was going to say, and then it just kind of morphed into the word part. I've dealt far more with people that don't enjoy being on camera that do actually enjoy being on camera, and it's normally like double the amount of people that don't like being on camera. So the first thing I'll tell you is understand what you enjoy doing, what you feel comfortable doing. Now, I was telling you guys earlier before we jumped on, like it takes a good amount of time for you to get comfortable, like fully comfortable with something. So if you are completely dedicated to being on video, then you just got to start with the first one. Everybody starts with number one. That's every single person. Doesn't matter if you're, a movie star, or it doesn't matter if you're Ryan on Propelio. Like you had to start with number one, and you get better over time. Myself, I've conducted about 200 interviews with real estate investors on a podcast called the Good Success Podcast. And if you listen to the first 50, like they suck. They're horrible. Like I was not good at interviewing people. And then it just kind of developed over time. And there's not really a book that you can read that says, how do I interview people better? Like
there might be.
You have to actually do it. So when you go out there, like you got to just start doing it. Now, if you don't like being on camera, there's always podcasting. There's writing books. There's writing ebooks. I mean, there's tons of different things that you can do content-wise to get out there. I mean, there's hundreds of different types of content that you could do to get yourself out there and promote it. Now, obviously, that being said, video is probably one of, if not the biggest outlet for content on the planet right now. Podcast and audio is coming up very quickly, but that just gives a lot more options for you to do. So maybe you don't like your voice and you don't want to, talk, then write. if you don't like writing, be on video.
We're coming up on a break, but before we go to our break, I know Tommy, our producer in the background, he was able to find some of those graphs. So, Tommy, do you want to do those first or do a break first?
Do it first.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and throw that up there. And I believe I know you can't see it, but you've got the company that goes out, direct mail, TV, radio.
It probably looks totally different than the way I explained it.
Well, I mean, company out, and then what was the next one, Tommy? And this is the what is this one? What is this an example of, Tommy? Just the back and forth.
Yeah, there's pay-per-click, podcast, webinars, SEO.
That's bringing you back
email,
to
social.
the company.
That goes to the company, and then the company gets your info, and then normal markets to you through all that stuff.
So that would be more the paid route.
Yeah, so it's basically you're putting
that's the more advertising
to get back inward. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, but you were going to go to a break.
I was going to go to a break. But I just want to say thank you, Tommy, for doing that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get more into the content marketing side. I know there's some questions about, how to utilize that to become an expert in all these different things, specifically to talk to sellers and get more leads. Because let's face it, in the competitive world of Northwestern Indiana, it's all about competition. All right, we'll be right back. The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com. Hey, welcome back. Thanks, everybody. It's Ryan and Casey with Massive Value. We've got Josh Culler. Just kidding. Josh Culler on the air. We're talking about content marketing and how that can be effective to get lead generation. So when we left off, Tommy had hooked us up with some graphs. Earlier call back to what Josh was talking about, how advertising and content marketing kind of differ.
So I have a question. So we were kind of talking about ways to get started, kind of how video tends to, kind of be the top form that I guess people are more responsive of. But my question is, I think a lot of us, when we kind of start to broaden our audience, whether it be on social media or, just meetups in our circle, we tend to kind of just be around each other. So my question is when you are trying to put that stuff out there, let's say just on Facebook, on a profile or even on Instagram, should you be going out and kind of adding people? Like, how do you get that content really to people like the sellers? Do you make your stuff public? Like, do you kind of friend different types of people? Like, how do you really get it out there without necessarily maybe doing like paid advertising, I guess? Or maybe you do, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really in-depth question because there's a lot of different directions you could go with that.
I'm good at those.
The first reaction would be if you really have something, if you have a product or a service that you want to offer and you want to see immediate results, then paid advertising is the way to go. Like, that's just how it is. So if you have a video about how you can help a distressed seller and you need results right away, you need leads coming in, you need deals closed, then paid advertising might be the way to go. The thing to understand with content, not trying to go off a rabbit trail here, and Ryan even mentioned it earlier, is that with content marketing, you're really going for the long haul. So the biggest difference between advertising and content marketing is a marathon and advertising is a sprint. Because with advertising, you can see the results right away, but it's also like transactional relationships that you're building with people. Mm-hmm. So you're not building a full relationship with them. Now, I know you guys just hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, so congratulations. Good job, guys. But when it comes down to it, those 5,000 subscribers aren't seeing all these advertisements all the time. Like, you might have sponsors and whatnot, and you might have, the guests come on and talk about their products and services, but you're providing value probably 85 to 90% of the time, which with that creates trust, that creates a relationship. So in turn, if you guys do have a product that you want to push out there, people are far more receptive to receive something like that. So that's the thing to understand. Now, to get more people to see it with content marketing, let's talk about specifically content marketing, right? We're not talking about advertising anymore because we already addressed that. With content marketing, it's all about the consistency. Like, people put out a piece of content. I mean, I deal with a lot of business owners that I do content for, and they're the type of people that they want to see results not now, they want to see them yesterday. So you put a video out there and they think in a week it's going to get 100,000 views. That's not how it works. Like, unless you're doing advertising again, maybe. But with content marketing, you got to stay consistent, keep pumping the content out, and make sure it's value. Make sure that you're just pumping out value as much as you can. And that's eventually it catches on, and then I see it hockey stick.
So here's a debate that, you said as much as you can. What does that mean?
I don't remember what I had that in the context of, but I mean, like, keeping it consistent, like, as often as you can, right? So if you have videos that go out that you say, I'm going to put these videos out every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then you better make that happen if you want to grow your subscriber base on YouTube, or if you want to grow your likes on Facebook, or whatever it is, which we could talk about metrics and that kind of thing maybe later on. But if you are wanting to get some kind of a following and you really want to see that grow, you have to stay consistent. And like I said, as often as you can.
Out of curiosity, okay, I know you're going to respond with it depends, but for the sake of argument, is it something that is like, it takes weeks, months, years to really get that kind of consistency going? Like, is it kind of something along those lines? Does it depend on how much value is actually in your content? I know there's no perfect formula, but is there any kind of guideline that you would give on, like, time frames? Because a lot of people, for example, when you do direct mail, right, they quit after sending out twice. And we all know maybe you have to do it 6 or 7. So along those kinds of lines with content marketing, is there any sort of, insight you can give us on that?
Yeah, and it depends.
No!
I love it.
So I've seen, if you just go on YouTube and you look up, some of the channels that are over 1 million subscribers, there's plenty of people out there that put out content that you're like, how in the world have they gotten to that point? Their content sucks.
And on the reverse side, there's plenty of examples of really high quality videos.
Absolutely.
That I'm like, how is nobody watching that?
Absolutely.
That's true.
And the reason why it depends is because it depends on your audience. So let's say, for instance, the backpack kid, right? The guy that does the floss dance with the backpack or whatever, and it went completely viral. You guys are shaking your heads because you're not that audience, right? But people love watching weird stuff on YouTube. Right. So maybe if you guys pull it up or something, you can see it. But many people that are out there in the consumer world know this backpack kid that does the floss and hit, 20 million views within the first month. And it's because it's the audience. There's probably 1 to 1,000 people that would prefer to watch, content like educational pieces of content for real estate investors as opposed to the backpack kid doing the floss, because there's far more consumers out there than there are like entrepreneurs, right? So
there you go.
That's what it depends.
But I see your answer there, but where you lose me is the consistency of doing videos for, like, if I'm targeting a seller.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because the reality is, when a seller is going to be very transactional. They're only like maybe they're in foreclosure, or maybe it's a probate. There's so many reasons of why they're selling a house, but they only have that one house. So because content marketing is the marathon, it is the long game. Like, how are you going to be able to do the long game on somebody who's trying to do a transaction? So that's kind of like where I don't want to say confused, but just like I don't have an answer for that yet.
No, that definitely makes sense. And I don't have a perfect answer for that either, honestly. Like, I'm not going to sit here and like try to make something up. It really does. It's a transactional like relationship there, because all they're doing is selling you a house and then they're done. But then after that, it might not be like a consistent like flow of content that you're putting out there, but maybe even content could be sending them a letter saying thank you for selling your house. I mean, that kind of stuff. Like you can get creative, like customer service wise, but
yeah, I guess to answer my own question is like you look at like Chip and Joanna Gaines, they have the HGTV thing, and people love the hell out of them. I'm sure people try to sell them houses all the time.
Sure.
And I think that you
also
also
because they know that's what they do.
Right.
They know that they are in real estate and they're buying and selling houses.
That's kind of the point I was going to make. Like, you never know. And I do find that, keep in mind that your audience with sellers, a lot of times they know someone else going through the same situation because you kind of surround yourself with people similar. So I have had people, you know, I bought a house from somebody and then a relative of somebody reached out to me because they knew my name and knew, well, she bought that person's, and maybe they can help me. So I do think that you are putting it out there like a realtor, right? I mean, a lot of people survive purely on referral business just because they know that that's what they do. So you never know.
So I was just about to mention that. Not sorry to cut you off.
No,
like
you're good.
Realtors do excellent job of and to the point sometimes where it can be annoying, right? Like when the realtors
annoying.
I'm a realtor.
not saying that realtors are annoying, but there's some that get to that point.
I am one, so be careful.
I did say
I'm watching it, right? Not you. But to that point, like that's a great example. And like content, to be honest with you guys, might not be the answer to all of your problems. So if you're looking for a distressed seller, yes, you need to put content out there, but it might not be you building up a YouTube channel or a podcast for distressed sellers. Like who's going to listen to a podcast for distressed sellers unless somebody can mastermind one? That's just the reality of it. But the important thing is to continue to put the content out there. You might not build a like a subscriber-based relationship with your audience, but like what Cassie just said, someone knows somebody that is a seller, and it all trickles down.
And I would also add to that,
Casey.
It's okay.
No, you can keep saying Cassie.
It's okay. I think also on that note is other people in your trade. Because if you know people in construction or that rehab things, I get referrals from a construction guy who's in people's houses every day. That he might work with, and he hears that they might sell. Guess who he gives me? He gives me referrals all day. So I have to stay on his radar that, oh, that's right, she's the one that does that all the time. So I would just suggest to everyone out there is broaden your mind on what your circle is, because it could be electricians, it could be so many parts of real estate, which we all know is incredibly diverse. And that could be just another way of continuing to pump out the marketing.
And real quick, one of our frequent watchers, Ed Chambers, he has a good question. At what point does consistency become oversaturation?
That's a really good picture. Like because what happens is you got people that like to put content out daily. I mean, you got guys like Gary Vaynerchuk who's putting out 4 to 5 pieces of content every single day on every single one of his platforms.
Right.
But that's all micro, like bite-sized pieces of content, and his audience eats that up because they just want more and more of it. I think what happens is you just kind of have to feel it out. So as you're going, like you're shooting for this goal, right? But at some point you got to adjust your trajectory. So if your goal is to build a podcast that has 1 million subscribers in 3 years, then you might start off with 1 podcast a week. Fair enough, right? That's easy to do, is 1 podcast a week. But then as you get more and more listens, more and more downloads, maybe go to 2 a week. And then 3 a week. And then you got guys like Entrepreneurs on Fire, John Lee Dumas, who was putting out a podcast a day for a very long time and built his base that way. So it just like the saturation part of it just depends on like what you're shooting for, what your goal is.
So that's a relevant question for Propelio, and we'll just go, let's turn it to us real quick, because we do 2 to 3 interviews a day. We're doing about 12 to 15 shows a week. And the reason for that was we don't want to spend 3 years to build 1 million followers. We want to do it tomorrow. So we're trying to do this. We're trying to merge the marathon and the sprint and just do a sprintathon.
But I would also say with like kind of Propelio, and the same with everyone else is art, like there's one thing to build a resource, a go-to to archive, because we always say, listen, if you're new in real estate, right? you're not going to learn everything at once. Like a lot of this content is going to go over people's heads until they're at their place in their business. So I think the difference between what I can discern, and Josh, you can speak to this, is it's like people like Gary Vee. They have personality. They have personality that people are drawn to and addicted to, and they like those bite-sized pieces. Like the Cardones, they're like that too, right? It's like I could go through their stories, and I'm just fascinated with their life. And so that is like a different kind of content versus Propelio that's trying to educate and be a resource for us to keep coming back to, right? I mean, there's a difference.
That's absolutely true. And it, again, like the thing that I want to establish here is it all depends on your goals, because if your goal is to, like Grant Cardone, sell out a baseball stadium for your 10X growth con, like you need to be putting out an insane amount of content every day to get to that point. But if your goal is to build a subscriber base on YouTube, like, since we're on YouTube here, if your goal is to build a subscriber base on YouTube for 1 million followers, you have to stay consistent with what your goal is. So let me give you a tangible, quick example. I've got cousins in the San Diego area. If you guys want to look them up, their channel's called Daily Bumps. I've been on the channel. I believe I was on 2 videos, and they have about 4 million subscribers right now on their YouTube channel. Now, basically what they do, they're daily family vloggers, right? That's what their full-time job is. They pump out one 15-minute video every single day at, I believe it's 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So their audience knows, like, I think it's like somewhere in like the 70% range of their views for the day come within that first hour of them putting the video out, because their audience is so latched onto them that they're just sitting by their phone waiting for the video to come out. So with them, it took them, I mean, they were working full-time jobs while they were doing these daily vlogging still for about the first year, I believe. And it grew quickly, relatively quickly, because they got started in the game when YouTube was kind of taking off. So the timing's important too, right? But for them, they were doing every single day, and their content's not that, it's not like, now it's quality, it's good, but before it was just a little hand camera that they were facing towards themselves, and it just kind of evolved into like 1 million subscribers within the first 2 years, and then it like kind of just snowballed from that. So, but their goal was to get to 1 million subscribers. Your goal might not be that. Your goal might be to get more sellers. So you got to establish that first.
So timing aside, how do you, Matt Smith, you had a good question. How do you stand out from the billion other people doing this thing?
Be cool.
Other than be cool. Like, how do you make your content stand out?
So I don't know the exact numbers. I'm going to get pretty close to it though, but there's a podcast out there that is by Buffer. I believe it's called Social Media something. And like, I should have established all this first. No, but if you just look up their podcast by Buffer, which Buffer, if you guys know, is the platform that distributes content for you, automated content for social media. They have a podcast, and on that podcast, one time they were talking about podcasting, right? And they made the statement after the analytics is that within the first 6 months of a podcast being established, 80% of people just drop off. They just stop doing it.
Wow.
So then that leaves 20% of the people that are still doing the podcast after 6 months of doing it. So they just continue on, right? And some people reach their max, right? There's been podcasts out there that they reach 1,000 episodes and they're like, all right, we're done. We're not doing any more. It's just this podcast has seen the life, and it needs to be put to rest now. So cool. But if you want to stand out and like keep that audience growing, you have to stay, again, consistent with what you're doing and keep continuing on. Because if 80% of the people that do podcasts drop off in the first 6 months and you're still doing it after a year, then man, you're in that 20%. That's pretty good odds. And then just continue to put out valuable content and grow that. And then there's strategies, and more advanced strategies, not to go further into this, that you could do micro pieces of content out of that podcast to raise awareness for that podcast. So now you can take the meat and potatoes of that podcast and clip out a 60-second clip, post that on Instagram, and say, for more to listen to the full podcast, go to our podcast channel on Apple Podcasts or whatever. So there's more strategies that you can do to raise that awareness. But what I would say is, first thing is everybody starts at 0. So you got to start there, do your first podcast, pick a day and time that you're going to do it every single week or month or whatever your frequency is, stick to that and just continue to do it. And that's how you stand out, honestly, is just continuing to do that and bringing the value.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go to another break, and this is our final break. When we come back,
that podcast was The Science of Social Media.
Which was that?
The Science
of Social Media.
Oh, cool. That's
thanks, Tommy. Yeah, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna wrap all this up in a bow, talking about consistency and talking about content, and hopefully, Cassie will have some good questions for us.
Always.
We'll be right back. The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, burr, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com. Did Tommy just say he loves us?
Are we back on air?
We are.
Welcome back, guys.
I don't know.
We're having a lot of fun in the studio today. I love this conversation. We're with Josh Culler with Culler Media, just talking about content marketing versus advertising and kind of some tips and tricks to reach sellers, get more leads, kind of depending on what your strategies are. This is good stuff. There's a lot of resources that I've never heard of, and so I'm kind of interested in this. But I kind of want to wrap it back. I think we went on a tangent a little bit on the content marketing, but I am still curious about on the seller side, because I think most people are going to be interested in trying to build that and putting that out there. So to me, it doesn't really sound like content marketing is going to be what we've been talking about is going to be the best strategy. However, I wonder if you were to take those quick 10 to 15 minute little spurts of information, or even a minute, and kind of use that as your advertising if you wanted something quicker or more direct, is what kind of content would you say or would you recommend for advertising that way and kind of meshing the two?
Yeah, so we've had this conversation, and we've gone in many different places for the sellers. So I kind of want to bring it back and dial it into don't not put content out there. That's the important thing to understand. Just because we're saying that might not be the strategy, which I agree with that, is, you're not, like we mentioned before, you're not going to build a podcast for distressed sellers. It's just not, there's not an audience for that, because there's just not, for obvious reasons. But if somebody were to be interested in selling a home, one of the first places that they're going to go is either your website or Facebook page, or just somewhere they're just going to Google the name of your business in general. Because of that, if there is something, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but if I check out a Facebook page, or I'm getting an ad for a company or something like that, or a startup or whatever, if I go to their Facebook page and there's nothing on their page that gives value, either how to use the product or what the service can provide for me, I just click right off and I forget about it for the rest of my life. I'm just not going to engage in it because I don't understand what they're going to be doing for me. So you still want to put that content out there, whether it be you just filming with your phone, hey, we're at a house today, we're looking at this foundation. The seller had a foundation problem. She didn't know what to do with it because she couldn't sell it retail. So then we bought it and we told her that we're going to help fix the foundation and put on a contract, or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and on that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
On that, I think Google is obviously it's a powerful thing, but if you are doing these advertising efforts, if you've got your Facebook ads, your digital ads, your bandit signs, your postcards, however you're getting a lead, if you're look, Google me versus Google my competition, and if you populate half of the YouTube whatever world or Facebook, and you've got blogs and you've got this, they're not going to look at, that video only had 3 views. They're going to see, this person's an expert versus Joe Schmo over there. All I get is his website that hasn't been updated.
Yeah, I think that's also just giving credibility power, which we have to think about. When I came from traditional media, we worked with a lot of clients that were do you want to be the voice of the content that's out there, or do you want someone else to be the voice of who you are? I think it kind of goes the same way, right? If your voice is there, you have more control over what people are seeing and thinking about you. So yeah, it's credibility power, I guess.
That's such a great point that Ryan made, though, is that, like, again, it goes back to what your goal for the content is. If your goal is to get a seller to sell you a home, who cares if you got 3 views on it? It doesn't matter. If that video helps entice the seller to sell the home to you, that's what matters at the end of the day. But it's still putting out regular content that you need to make happen, because if they see that video is like, 3 years old, and it's a testimonial video that's 3 years old, they're thinking like, have they not bought any houses for the last 3 years?
Yeah.
So you got to understand that and make sure that that's where they keep putting content out there.
And also, just thinking more on this subject is the wormhole ability of YouTube, where people watch a video, and then they watch the next, and the next, and the next, and then Daniel talked about this a long time ago about, and just what you just said, Josh, about how you use the social proof. You've got a testimonial from someone, and you literally can use that testimonial as content and an advertisement. And then when people click on it, they're like, well, if this guy helped out Sally Sue, maybe he'll help out me too. So
that's true. I like it.
It's all ties together.
I totally agree with that. And the wormhole thing, like people will binge. So there's 3 types of content. There's informational, educational, and entertaining, right? So, and people can wormhole on all 3 of those. I love that term. I'm going to start using that, Ryan. Thanks. But like if somebody, like, selling their house is a big deal. Like, it's huge. It's a big decision that they have to make, and they got to make sure they pick the right person. And so if they watch one video about you, more than likely, they're not going to make their decision off of that first video that they watch. So they're going to continue to keep consuming content that you put out. And if you only have one video on your Facebook page, they might go on to the next person, because especially if you're in Dallas, there's plenty of people that are putting out quality content that are marketing to sellers. And so you just have to make sure that you're populating content as often as you can.
And if you are lucky enough to have somebody who does go down that wormhole, I mean, let's face it, if somebody watches a lot of videos, there's not just a credibility, but there's an affection, there's the fandom, there's that you feel like you know the person, and that's why you have all these super fans of celebrity. You have the celebrity status, even though, again, you may have 3 views, but if somebody watches all 10 of your videos and then you show up at a house buying appointment, they're gonna be like, hey, I feel
I already know you.
I already know you. Yeah. So
I think that is incredibly powerful. And that's why I try to think of it that way too. It's like we always say everybody has an edge, right? And your personality is your own edge. And if you're able to show that, then you're right. Like, people can just pick you purely because they connect with you.
Yeah. So like someone like myself, who we've done, I've probably done 100, 150 of these videos, probably more. But like, if I chose to, I could be the biggest douchebag in the world, be like, oh, Josh, nice to meet you. Oh, you don't, just Google me. Like, I don't think Tommy, if I ever do that, just slap me. But it's like, that is kind of like the power move. Just Google me.
That is so bad. That is so bad.
Sorry.
Anyway, I love it. And what I really liked when you said in the beginning, which you brushed over, is you said, like, riches are in the niches. Which I am obsessed with this quote, because you can be niche in this field, and everybody is. Everyone's kind of got their own little specialty. So, I just wanted to bring that up, because I think to a lot of us out there, we feel overwhelmed. Like, oh, so-and-so does, wholesaling 100 houses a year. So-and-so does 10 flips at a time. But you can find whatever your niche is and just kind of hone in on your expertise there. And you'll become very well known to deal with that specific type of niche in real estate. And I think that that's a good way to start, personally.
I'd like to get into some, just because we're wrapping up, just a little mini brainstorming session here of anybody that's watched the video this long that would really like to do the content marketing, but specifically for the sellers. So what are some ideas of specific videos that you could think of, that Cassie can think of, that I could think of, Tommy? Just because I know some people are like, where do we start? What do we do?
I think one that I would say that I've kind of noticed is, when what I kind of specialize in foreclosure. So somebody told me an interesting statistic is that they find that when people are in a distressed situation, their IQ actually drops like 10 points. Like they've shown this. And so my point in saying that is, if you were to put content out towards them to track them, right, they kind of break down and don't know what to do as next steps. So I think if you were to put content out there for sellers like that in saying, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, something simple as figure out how much you need to reinstate the loan. Like half the people don't even know what that means. So like little like educational pieces that help them know, okay, I have to do this and then this and then this, so that they aren't frozen. And it also helps you get a transaction done better. But kind of stuff like that to me would be something for foreclosure types of sellers.
That's huge. And there's another quote out there. I don't 100% agree with it because I think that there's some essence to it, but is whoever educates the market dominates the market. I think there's a lot of educators out there that are false educators. So I don't 100% believe in that quote, but it is for the most part true. Just like Cassie said, if you educate people on Casey, if you educate people on it, you guys got it in my head now. Like I just
thought
can't
you
get
were
it
messing
out.
with me.
I'm so sorry. I'll get it right, Casey. Okay. But if you put content out there that's educating your audience on either A, what you can do for them, or how they can get out of their pain point, their situation, whatever situation they're in, that's going to go a very, very long way because you're like helping them make the decision basically, because selling their house is, again, a big decision to make. And so if you can push them in the right direction, and I mean, I've even seen people that are successful at telling people like, hey, I might not be the right person for you, but I'm definitely going to help you out. And then it just comes back to them because either if they don't sell the house to them, they're going to go tell somebody else like, hey, they helped me, so go to them.
There's one I would do. I think everybody should do this, and this is a little bit savage, but like do a video, but like, hey, if you've got somebody trying to buy your house, make sure you get shit.
Yes. I know where you're going with this. We do this.
Show me your funds.
A proof of funds.
Proof of funds, thank you. Show me your proof of funds. And people are like, what's a proof of funds? Oh, let me tell you.
Something we do sometimes too is like, okay, well, you're working with so-and-so. Make sure if it says this on the contract, I'd be weary. They might be doing this strategy. So we actually help guide sellers on what to look for whoever's buying their house. So it's a little tricky.
One thing Daniel used to do when he was out buying houses, I don't know if you've ever heard this, like some people would go into the proof of funds. He's like, oh, that's cute. He pulled out his bank account app on his phone.
I mean, that's pretty savage.
He'd be like, that's just a letter. I've got the money right here on my phone.
That is savage.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So yeah, I think that is along the same lines. It's kind of just like you said, it's called the takeaway, right? We call it the takeaway in sales, but it's like a takeaway in content, in that you're saying, hey, listen, that's great. You have someone. Let me be a backup. But just so you know, if you don't get this done by this date and you don't see whatever, give me a call because it might not be the best answer.
And one thing I just thought of, and I don't know if this is factual or not, but I'm just going to throw it out there. But by you being the person that's throwing all the content out there, does that, so say Casey and I are going head to head on a house, and Casey's the one that's putting all the content out there, and I haven't done anything. Does that now mean that subconsciously that I'm hiding something? Because if she's the one that's putting all the content, but I'm not putting any, see where I'm going with that?
Like, do you think it's less?
Like the seller, they'd be like, oh, is Ryan hiding something?
I could make them think that.
That's the point. So again, I think that's just another reason to do the content marketing. Like
it's a good point. I think it's a good point because it's all about connecting with. Because like where I thought you were going to go kind of makes sense along with what your question was. I thought you were going to go, what if you and Casey are putting out the same kind of content, same amount of content, same value, and when it comes down to that, the difference is going to be who can connect with the seller better, like in a personality perspective. So if it's a woman, more than likely they're going to go with Casey.
Yeah.
Like there's just
true.
And I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as competition in content, because when it comes to the way people consume media, consume videos, is they will watch 15 videos of the same damn thing. If they type in what is wholesaling, they're going to watch every video they can find, and it could be the exact same wordage, just different. So
I like that. That's really true, because people hear things differently, learn differently, understand differently, and you could just be the one person that helps them understand. So I like that. Well done.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Josh, any final thoughts just to kind of put a bow on this conversation as a whole?
So I was actually going to ask if I could leave just one nugget that I'm trying to leave everywhere I speak about about content, and it'll take like 30 seconds to a minute. So video, if you're doing, we're on YouTube right now, right? And video is, like, we'll just say it's the biggest form of content that somebody can consume right now, just because of the nature of where technology is at, and you can literally watch it in the palm of your hand. When you're doing a video, depending on the platform you are on, make sure that you're optimizing your video for that platform. So let me give you an example. When it comes to Facebook, most people are scrolling through Facebook on their phone, right? Like hardly anybody's on their desktop anymore. So because of that, shoot in vertical because it fills up the screen more. If you're shooting in landscape, people are watching it and it's only filling up about 25% of the phone screen. So in order for them to completely engage in that, they have to flip their phone, and people subconsciously value their time and they don't want to do that. Now, if you're on YouTube, it's a different platform. People are going to YouTube to watch these longer form videos. So yes, you have to put them in landscape. But if you're on like Instagram, that is a platform specifically for micro content, bite-sized pieces of content. IGTV is kind of making its way into the sphere there, trying to compete with other platforms for longer form video. But all in all, Instagram is for the shorter form content. So you want to put bite-sized pieces, which either could be square video or, again, the vertical video, but don't do landscape because the goal is to fill up as much of the phone screen as you possibly can.
That's awesome.
Great tip.
That is. I can do that. I can handle that. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
So Josh, what is your podcast again, and how can our audience help you? What kind of business are you looking to do?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, culler.media or cullermedia.com. Culler spelled Culler. Culler.media redirects to the primary website. For me, I'm just looking for real estate investors that are, well, not necessarily real estate investors, but people that are in the industry. So for instance, I'm working with a guy named Josh Belk, who's a CPA, but he has close to 1,000 clients he's worked with that are real estate investors. So he knows that industry very well. So I'm looking for people that are fun to work with and kind people, right? Like I don't want to work with any jerks out there that, have their Lamborghinis in the background and think they're all that. Like I don't care to work with that. I'm sorry if that's you.
You're out.
Yeah. Ryan, you got a Lamborghini?
It's only this big,
like
but
that?
it is one.
Okay, got it. Wow. So you could either go to my website. I've got my Facebook page, Culler Media, Culler. But doing content, I also do brand designing. So I build brands from the ground up. So designing the logos, color theory.
Yeah, you've done some really cool logos that I've seen, and you give a lot of good advice on those. So if anybody's looking for something to stand out, Josh is your guy. Has some cool ones. Much
appreciated. And that honestly is kind of like, we're talking about content, but that is primarily what makes people stand out the most is the branding. When we're talking about sellers is, do you have a good looking, appealing logo and design to the audience, or do you have something that's just generic and it's going to skim over their head because it looks like the rest of everybody else's? Yeah, absolutely.
So Cassie, what are you looking for?
What am I looking for? Honestly, I'm looking to help people every time, I swear. Close some foreclosures. I know we're a week away, and so if you guys have sellers that you haven't been able to help or close the deal and you need some assistance there, please give me a call. You can find me, message me on Facebook.
Ryan S. Harper on Instagram. Give me a follow. Also, if you're watching this, if you've watched any of our videos, help us out. We're like Josh was saying earlier, we are trying to build our YouTube following. We did just hit 5,000 over the weekend, and we would love to hit 10,000 before the summer's out, and 100,000 before the year. So follow me on Instagram, follow Ryan S. Harper, follow Propelio on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like. And as far as whatpropelio.com, we've got your comps, we've got leads, and we've got websites. Check it out. We've got a lot of things coming your way on July 15th here in about 2-3 weeks or so. We've got a relaunch of the Academy. We've got Propelio 2.0 coming with a soft launch, and we've got our Driving for Dollars app coming. So we've got a ton of stuff coming, and then we also have got the July 9th event which is going to be stupid epic. It's probably going to be the best event
Josh,
of all time.
you should come out one of these times.
This is the time to do it because we're talking about lead generation and marketing. We've
You'd
got
fit right in.
Paul Getter.
I will try to make it.
Yeah.
Paul Getter's got over 1 million followers on Instagram. He does a lot of marketing for Ty Lopez. So the Lambo thing.
Yeah.
Carlos Reyes, who's done our show a couple times, he's doing lead generation, and you got Christina Kraus, who's doing direct mail. So the whole event's gonna be about lead generation and marketing. It's gonna be an epic event.
I'm excited.
And I think and Daniel's chiming in on the Cassie as well.
Yep. Thanks.
So anyway, we'll see. Josh, thanks again. What was the podcast one more time?
Well, I have a Facebook, like I put videos out, content tip of the week, so it's on Facebook. You guys are motivating me now because I'm gonna put it on the podcast. So
there you go.
Yeah.
But for right now,
what's the Facebook then?
Just Culler Media, Culler.
Got it. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Tommy, you got anything?
I sure don't.
Cool. All right. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks again,
next
everybody.
time, guys.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Lifeiner.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up to the Propelio event. We had a great time. It's huge, as always. We love everybody that came. If this is your first event, jump on Facebook, jump on YouTube. Let us hear it. Let us know what your thoughts are. We love feedback. Anytime we could do something better, we want to do that. If this is your second event, your third event, your 10th event, let us hear that too. We're trying to create a community here where everybody comes together. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you at the next one.